Call to order the April 25th meeting of the Cary Town Council. And it's my turn to give opening remarks. And since it's my 37th anniversary, I got to say to my wife, I love you and happy anniversary. And I would encourage everyone to hug and kiss your significant other every chance you get. And hopefully you'll have 37 years to celebrate one day. Jack's already been there, right, Jack?
I got 50.
Yeah, there you go. So would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First order of business is to adopt the agenda. We have a couple of changes. First, I'd like to make a mayor appointment to the 2035 Wake County Transit Plan Stakeholders Advisory Committee under item of recognitions, reports, and presentations. And second, an adjustment to our meeting schedule will be added to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the amended agenda?
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And that takes us to recognitions, reports, and presentations. And the mayor's appointment to the 2035 Wake County Transit Plan Stakeholders Advisory Committee. No motion is needed, and I'll make the appointments of Michelle Craig and Sarika Bansal. Thank you so much for serving on this. It's a very important committee and taking time out of your day in the future to do this. Very important for us, so thank you.
Thank you.
And we have special guests in the audience this evening. We are excited to invite the students from Le Touquet, our sister city, from Le Touquet, France, to the podium. They have been our sister city, Jack and I were discussing, somewhere around 35 years. And I know somewhere around 20 years ago, I started hosting students over the years. So it's really special when they've come to town. I've had the pleasure of visiting Le Touquet. It's a beautiful place. And you want to see a large beach. They have a huge beach, and they do a lot of things at Le Touquet. I've been to the school, and it's an amazing school. At the top of the school, they have where you could see 360 degrees around everything. And for tennis nuts like me, they had clay tennis courts, which are awesome. Don't have red clay here. And they have golf courses, which Jack loves, and Jack's been there many times too.
Not many.
Not many. But we're so excited to have them here. They're They're in a school that has a whole wide range of things they study, and right now they're studying culinary arts, and for the first time, is my understanding, they're studying the culinary arts in the U.S. in downtown Cary restaurants, which is really special. It's nice to be able to say that they're in downtown Cary restaurants. So welcome, we're glad that you're here, and I know that one of you is going to make a few remarks.
Yes. So hello everyone. I hope you're all alright. First of all, I wanted to thank our art family. So thank you to Janet, Andrew and Jen, and Karen and Ken, but also Christy and Pamela and our teachers for allowing us to live this trip, which I think is a dream for all of us. Thank you very much. As well to Sister Cary for sharing us. Since our arrival, we are very happy with all our experiences, our internships, but also to discover the city of Cary and your culture. Thank you again to Karen and Ken for making us discover the city of Indian Beach. And I'm very happy to be here with you today. So thank you for listening to me, and good evening.
Thank you very much. Maybe a few remarks from one of the chaperones? No? They're both looking at each other like, not me.
I was not expecting that. We were sending our students, So good evening, everyone. What else to say that apart from a huge thank you again for your lovely welcome. We've been here now for 2 weeks, and it was very busy weeks, busy days, and we are running everywhere and discovering new things every day. What else to say? That's a wonderful time, wonderful discovery for everyone, and a good trip for the language as well. So marvelous. Just a huge thank you to everyone.
Thank you. And after they study here, I believe they have a trip to New York before they head home, right?
2 days.
2 days. Oh, so you're close to going to New York. Okay. Well, have a great time. We're so glad that you came to visit us today, and we look forward to seeing some of you in the future, and stay in touch with your host families. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, while they're settling down, I think the 3 restaurants were the Peck and Plume. Were at the Umstead, and they put them to work, and they learned a lot. And I just get a kick out of people from France coming to the U.S. to learn about cooking. I think that's neat. So I just wanted to share that. If I missed a restaurant, I apologize. But
And it's an exchange, right?
It's an exchange.
We send students over there as well. Right. All right. We'll now turn it over to our town manager for Mr. Stiegel's update.
Thank you, Mayor. Our annual Spring Days Arts and Crafts Festival is this Saturday from 9 to 5 inside Bond Park. And to help with parking and traffic, we've set up a number of alternatives to driving personal cars to and from the event. Bond Park serves as the hub for our amazing greenway system, and for those who want to bike there, we'll have our very popular free bike valet service where our team will securely park and store your bike for you until you're ready to leave the park. We're also providing free shuttles all day, one from here at Town Hall, at the Town Hall parking deck, and one from Green Hope High School. Or you can go to the Cary Depot and catch one of our ADA accessible buses to Bond Park via routes 4 or 8. And if you want to use Uber or Lyft, the designated pickup and drop-off location is the Cary Senior Center. Details on each of these options are available on our website, carync.gov. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stiegel. We now move to the third item on the agenda, which is Public Speaks Out. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum online and on the printed agenda. There were 3 opportunities to participate in Public Speaks Out, one through written comments, or calling in, or attending here in person this evening. And if you are here in person and would like to speak, I would ask that you sit in the rows that are highlighted and they are reserved for you. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments, and speakers may speak on any town-related topic as long as it's not a public hearing, and that's to your advantage because you get more time at a public hearing. There's a 3-minute time limit, and it will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. There's a timer on the podium. It'll start off with a green light, and when there's 30 seconds remaining, it will turn into a yellow light, and when it flashes red, that's the point I'm going to interrupt you. Again, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, or anything else that may distract from this meeting. So now is the time for Public Speaks Out, and I'll call on our clerk to first read any written comments and then call on registered speakers.
We had 4 written comments and 1 registered speaker. So with the written comments, Mary Collins expressed concerns about the impact of property reevaluation on the long-term homeowners in Cary, especially seniors, and questions the necessity and the fairness of proposed tax increases given recent developments in the town. She also highlights the potential nature of the property and sales tax on lower-income residents, questioning why tax rates need to be raised despite Cary's historically having low taxes. Sanjita Sutta suggested implementing ordinances similar to those in California to improve stormwater runoff, recharge groundwater, and conserve water. This link was provided in your written comments. Eric Eisenhart questioned why Roundup weed killer is being used alongside public roadways, walkways, and community property. His question has been directed to staff for a response. We had an anonymous comment that provided traffic suggestions to improve the safety of downtown streets. And our 1 registered speaker is Ted Boner, and he'll be given his comments in person.
Okay, and I would invite him forward at this time. Move to your left, please. Thank you very much.
Apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
First
You're good.
council meeting I've ever been to.
Come.
Thank you. My name is Ted Bonner. I just came to make a comment as a long-term Cary resident who participates in a lot of things but has never actually been here. But it's regarding the Greenwood Forest Baptist project over on Kildare and Maynard. And primarily, I understand the intentions of the project. My concern is the traffic. Because on Kildare, you have everybody cutting around the 440 and 40 thing and cutting through town, and that's already a busy intersection. On Maynard, it's 35 miles an hour, but I dare you to actually see somebody going that fast or that slow. And like Oak Ridge and Maynard, but I've watched folks cross there, and that's a suggestion. And the only thing I can think of with that project is I understand the intent, the desire to help folks, but 60 units of housing and additional temporary housing, each of those people are going to need cars, transportation. The temporary housing is going to require ancillary transportation, other type of support services, and the traffic there, I don't know if you've done a traffic study or if you're going to do a traffic study, but it's gotten to the point, we live on Maynard exactly, and trying to turn left, we have to wait for the traffic cycles to catch. And now that Kilmaine has been opened, people are cutting around that intersection going through Kilmaine, which is on the backside of Greenwood Forest. And I'm just thinking the traffic there, the density, we got Oak Ridge just built, which is 6 stories tall, but most of those folks are going to be older. I don't think they're going to be out driving. They may be walking, going to the food line. But I just think the density, the safety, the impact on the local residents on Maynard, I think it's just immense. Even now, it hasn't been built yet. And like I said, we sit at our driveway. We wait to get out. We've been here for 20 years, or actually longer. But it's just me, the voice of common citizen, saying I think that's an odd placement to put it. Really, like they're taking down those apartments in Bynum Street right off of Walnut, and they're putting up luxury townhouses. I mean, that was traditionally a place where you could get some more affordable housing. It's, the density is the issue. I don't think it's the best idea. I hope you guys do a traffic study. I think you'd be alarmed if you actually sat on Maynard and watched the traffic go by, and at the speed they go by, and the way they disregard the school zone up at Cary, and the crosswalks y'all put in, it's not reality. So that's all I have. So
Thank you, Mr. Bond.
thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Any other registered speakers?
No other registered speakers.
If you're here attending this evening and would like to speak at Public Speaks Out, now's your opportunity, and I would invite the first speaker forward. Anyone to speak at Public Speaks Out? Seeing no one, I'll close Public Speaks Out, and we'll move to our fourth item, which is the consent agenda. For the benefit of people watching our meeting on TV, I'm going to take a moment to review the consent agenda items. On the consent agenda, we have the March 1st, 2024 minutes, adjustments to the meeting schedule, 24A01 Trinity Road Townhomes Annexation, fiscal year 2024 year-end budget adjustments. Would council members like any of these items pulled for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move to public hearings. Same rules apply for public hearings that apply for Public Speaks Out, with one exception. Speakers now have 5 minutes each for their comments. Our first public hearing is on the consideration of right-of-way closing for Cedar Street parking deck. And Assistant Development Services Director Rob Wilson will present this item, and council may take action.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The developer of the Rogers redevelopment and Cedar Street parking deck sites has requested that the council close portions of right-of-way associated with Rogers Alley. Rogers Alley is located in downtown Cary between East Chatham Street and East Cedar Street. Just a little history regarding the site and the alley. In the 1960s, Bill and Barbara Rogers owned a restaurant and motel next to Rogers Alley on East Chatham Street. The Rogers restaurant was part of the Cary community for a generation until Bill and Barbara retired and closed the restaurant in the early 1990s. Rogers Alley, which is to the left of the white building in this photo, was used for deliveries and parking. After Bill and Barbara Rogers retired, their son, Billy Rogers, continued to operate the motel rooms until he passed away, and the property was put up for sale in 2018. In 2019, Northwoods Associates purchased the Rogers property at 149 East Chatham Street, along with the adjacent parcel at 159 East Chatham Street to the east. The town was the owner of the adjacent property at 109 North Walker Street, and the town also maintained the right-of-way for Rogers Alley. A redevelopment plan was approved for the Rogers site in October 2020. The plan included 2 mixed-use buildings, Rogers East and Rogers West. They're joined by an atrium lobby, and the new buildings include a combined 10,000 square feet of ground floor commercial and approximately 37,000 square feet of office space. On June 24th of 2021, Council approved a downtown development agreement for the Rogers redevelopment. Building permits for the Rogers redevelopment were issued in February of 2022, and construction was completed in early 2024. During construction, and since the approval of the original downtown development agreement with Cary, the developer purchased additional property on the west side of Rogers Alley. These properties, shown in red on this graphic, began to be eyed for parking and retail uses. Subsequently, on November 16th of 2023, Council approved an amendment to the Downtown Development Agreement to expand the Rogers redevelopment project to include a 300-space public parking deck with about 4,000 square feet of privately owned ground floor retail space. Cary will own and operate the deck, while the developer will own and operate the retail space, with ownership structured via a condominium arrangement. Survey work undertaken as part of the parking deck design disclosed an alley platted in 1923 that runs east-west of Rogers Alley across the East Cedar Street parking deck site. Our research indicates that this alley was platted but never opened to public use. Over the last century, the narrow lots shown in this plat have been reassembled to form the adjacent retail center and the 4 properties currently being used for the Cedar Street deck project. Cary closed a portion of this unnamed alley in 1963, the segment shown here in blue. And then in 1974, Cary recorded a deed disclaiming its interest in another portion of the alley, the segment shown here in orange. At this time, the small eastern portion of the alley, that's shown in yellow, has still not been closed by Cary. The developer has requested Cary officially close this yellow remaining portion of the unnamed alley to clear up any questions regarding title to the property on which the parking deck will be built. The developer has also requested straightening the Rogers Alley right-of-way. Specifically, Cary would close a sliver of right-of-way, the triangle shown here in red, and the developer would dedicate a sliver of new right-of-way, the green triangle, to improve the geometry where Rogers Alley intersects with East Chatham Street and East Cedar Street. With history and context in mind, tonight's hearing is just focused on closing the unnamed and unopened alley segment shown in yellow and the sliver of Rogers Alley right-of-way shown in red. Staff believes that the proposed right-of-way closures will benefit the public interest by removing confusion associated with the unopened alley, eliminating portions of the right-of-way that are no longer needed, providing better alignment for Rogers Alley, and allowing a better and more functional site layout to be achieved on the East Cedar Street parking deck site, all without depriving any adjacent owners of reasonable access. At this point, Cary can either do nothing and leave the unopened alley and Rogers Alley in their current state, or, as staff is recommending, close the remaining segment of unopened right-of-way and close a sliver of Rogers Alley to facilitate better alignment. State law provides clear statutory guidance for such situations. Staff has followed this process by calling this public hearing, providing notice of this hearing on Cary's website and in the newspaper, mailing notice to adjacent owners, and placing signs along the Rogers Alley right-of-way. Pending public comment, staff recommends that after the public hearing, the council authorize the mayor to execute the street closing order and approve staff to record the order at the Wake County Register of Deeds. This concludes staff's presentation. Staff will be available for any questions following the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. So now is the time for the public hearing for the consideration of right-of-way closing for Cedar Street and parking deck. And at this time, I'll call on our clerk for any written comments or call on any registered speakers.
No written comments, no registered speakers.
If you're here this evening in the audience and would like to speak at this public hearing, now's your opportunity. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions, comments, or even a motion.
Gotta find the slide.
I'll make a motion that we approve the staff suggestion for proposed right-of-way closure for parts of Rogers Alley.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
We now move to our second public hearing on fiscal year 2024-2025 project funding recommendation list and community development block grant, CDBG, annual action plan public hearing. Heather Wheelahan, Director of Housing and Community Partnerships, will present this item and council may take action. Ms. Wheelahan.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's great to be here tonight, and I'm excited to present the 2024-2025 Cary Housing and Community Partnerships Annual Action Plan. This is a particularly exciting year because we received a record number of applications and are recommending the largest award package for Cary for housing initiatives in Cary's history. Tonight is a public hearing, and Council may also take action on the draft annual action plan. In Cary, we engage in partnerships to work across the entire housing continuum in these 4 high-impact strategy areas: new housing opportunities, housing rehabilitation and affordability preservation, housing stability and affordable living support, and nonprofit capacity building. When cultivating partnerships and evaluating funding awards, we prioritize initiatives that align with these areas to further Cary's housing goals and the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development national objectives. This year, we are recommending nearly $7.3 million across these 4 strategic areas. As you know, partnerships are critical to the housing work that we support in our community. We don't operate a housing authority and we aren't developers, so we know we couldn't make the same impact without the expertise of these incredible partners. This year, we're awarding funds to 11 different organizations doing housing work in Cary. The awards will fund programs like Healthy Homes Cary with Rebuilding Together of the Triangle, our homeowner rehab program, Stable Homes Cary with the Oasis Utility Fund Bill program, and the Play It Forward program with Dorcas Ministries. We're helping the Carrying Place expand their duplex portfolio to provide transitional housing for more families in their Journey Home program, as well as supporting maintenance and improvements to their existing portfolio of 13 Cary properties. We're partnering with the Greenwood Forest Baptist Church to redevelop a portion of their land, as well as some town land, to create a mixed-use development, including new daycare facilities, community programming space, and approximately 80 new units of affordable housing. We're also supporting innovations like a pilot of the Community Land Trust model to provide home ownership opportunities in partnership with the Raleigh Area Land Trust. We're working with Cramden Institute out of Durham on a digital equity program, which will offer computer skills and courses in Spanish, and with every participant receiving a personal computer upon course completion. We're supporting more housing and programming for seniors in downtown with Beacon Management, and in Western Cary with the White Oak Foundation. And finally, we're supporting 3 additional nonprofits providing critical needs support: A Doorway to Hope, Passage Home, and Triangle Family Services. We're grateful to these organizations for the work they do to support Cary residents, and we're so proud to be able to support them. And now turning a little bit to process, we work with community partners and developers throughout the year. And in February, we opened funding applications. Applications are scored by a panel based on alignment with Cary housing goals and Department of Housing and Urban Development national objectives. We then create this draft annual action plan detailing how we recommend spending funds. The plan opens for public comment, and we seek advocates and the community at large. And then tonight, I said, is a public hearing, and you may take action to approve the draft plan. Once we have an approved draft plan, we submit that plan to HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, and if it is approved, we then move ahead with initiative implementation. In Cary, we use a blend of local and federal funds to support housing initiatives. So while this plan is required by the Department of Housing and Urban Development when using Community Development Block Grant or CDBG funds, it reflects the total investment in housing initiatives, including Cary General Funds and American Rescue Plan Act funds, or ARPA funds. Through our partners, this award package will create a really big impact in our community. We anticipate it will facilitate the construction of approximately 226 new affordable units, the rehabilitation of 29 existing units. It'll assist 463 residents experiencing housing instability, and will support the organizational growth of our incredible nonprofits. This concludes my presentation, and following the public hearing, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Wieland. Now, I'll open the public hearing for fiscal year 2024-2025 project funding recommendation list, community development block grant annual action plan. And I'll call on our clerk for any written comments or call on any registered speakers.
We had no written comments and 1 registered speaker, and that registered speaker is Kevin Campbell.
Okay, Mr. Campbell.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's good to be here with you, and I thank you for the opportunity to make a few comments, and also thank you for the increased local investment in affordable housing that you all have been making. As Heather mentioned, we're bringing through the Raleigh Area Land Trust. I'm serving as the executive director of that organization since January. We are bringing something innovative to Cary, to Wake County, to Raleigh, but it's a proven model that was actually started in the 1960s, now exists in about 300 different community land trust organizations across the country, with a cumulative production of 16,000 homes in the model. The model basically is, it does 2 things in my mind. It allows a lower entry point for homeownership because the model is structured so that the home buyer is just purchasing the house and not the land. So there's a lot less investment involved. to get into homeownership and to start to earn equity in that way. The land is then held in trust by our organization on behalf of the community so that the units that are created remain permanently affordable. The land trust, the land lease is 99 years. For some reason, we always say it's renewable for another 99 years. But two important things with the many families I've worked with over the years in affordable housing, I always hear two things. One is they're really looking for stability, and especially lately, there's a great instability in rental rates, and families get surprised with huge rental increases. So this helps to create that stability. And the other thing we hear is, I want to be able to leave something to my kids. And this lease is transferable to heirs. The heirs do not need to be income qualified. They can just pick up the terms of that lease as it's written. The grant proposal here that we're grateful to be awarded or to be considered for is to purchase and renovate and then sell 4 homes in Cary that we would purchase on the market. These funds will provide subsidies so that families earning up to not above 80% of area median income will be able to purchase them. So we appreciate that. Quick update on Raleigh Area Land Trust. We are new in the community. We sold our first 2 homes in 2023 in Southeast Raleigh to 2 Raleigh natives who never had a chance at home ownership. So that was very satisfying to be able to do that. And we are about to start construction sometime this summer on an 18-unit project also in Raleigh to do 14 for sale units and 4 rental units in that, in incomes ranging from 30% AMI up to 80%. So thank you for the inclusion to the staff, and we look forward to working with you on this.
Thank you. Any other registered speakers?
No additional speakers.
If you're here this evening and would like to speak at this public hearing, now is your opportunity, and I would invite you forward.
Good evening. Happy anniversary, Mayor.
Thank you.
My name's Kyle Greer, Council. Good evening. My name's Kyle Greer. I reside at 404 Millsfield Drive in Cary, and I stand here this evening as the current chair for the Board of Directors for the Carrying Place. I'm here to ask for your support of the item before you, the annual action plan, and I'd like to spend just a couple of minutes reminding you of the meaningful impact that the Carrying Place's Transitional Housing and Life Skills program has been quietly doing in our community over the last 31 years. TCP has served over 545 families, homeless working families with children right here in Cary. Each family has been offered strategic guidance and a hand up when they fell on hard times. Through the generous support of Cary and the wonderful community, TCP has been there to empower families, provide them with respite housing, and has taught them vital financial education. This has led each family to improve money management skills, wiser income and debt reduction skills, and a self-sustained housing position. Most importantly, it has led to housing and stability for the over 1,500 children impacted by these events. Weekly, these children got to sit alongside their parents and guardians and learn the value of how to make a budget and how to plan for a better life. At young ages, they learned why money mattered. They also learned healthy decision-making and how to develop a roadmap, so hopefully they would not fall into a similar circumstance. Over 2,100 individuals have been touched by the Carrying Place and found refuge in one of our transitional homes while regaining their footing after life or a lack of knowledge had knocked them down. Some time ago, Leslie Covington, our executive director of 10 years, shared a family story with you about our impact. She talked about how a Cary middle school teacher and her sons had come into our program, and just as a follow-up to that, that same teacher is still a very active graduate of TCP and continues to make learning fun for her students in Cary. Because of our ongoing support, she has been able to go back to school for her master's in education from NC State, go Pack. And she's soon to graduate. She continues to be a strong example of what a wonderful funding partnership makes possible for hardworking residents of our great town. But the need is great. Every day we receive calls from working families needing assistance. On average, TCP receives about 70 calls a week. Unfortunately, families cannot be housed, many families cannot be housed or assisted in a timely manner because we don't yet have the housing or the capacity to serve them. This proposed funding will help the Caring Place make a dent in that capacity issue. If approved, these funds would help us acquire 2 additional transitional housing units, which will allow us to serve 6 or more families a year, and that would bring us to a total of 15 units through this years. It will also help us update and restore our current 13 units, meeting Cary's housing rehabilitation and preservation initiatives. And lastly, it'll help TCP build capacity and make more program enhancements to eventually double the number of families we can serve. This will help TCP increase our programming and move more of our families on from their journey from homelessness to eventual home ownership, all right here in Cary. We're grateful for you and our local community for helping us change the trajectory of these families, not to just survive, but to thrive here. Mr. Mayor, Council, John, Heather, you guys have been fabulous partners with Caring Place for a long time, and we cannot thank you enough for the trust you put in us for the stewardship of taxpayer dollars to help our neighbors. We know there's more work to do to meet Cary's housing goals, and the Caring Place is here to help. I'd like to ask excuse me, I'd like to ask that we can continue this partnership together. Again, we thank you for your support of this matter and for everything you do.
Thank you, Mr. Greer.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Lauren Eford, and I'm the senior pastor of Greenwood Forest Baptist Church, located on the corner of Maynard and Kildare Farm Roads. I just wanted to express my gratitude and enthusiasm for the project funding recommendation list and the Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan, right, Mr. Mayor? Did I get it all out? Presented by Heather Wheelahan tonight. Oh, I did it again. We're excited about the mixed-use project that we're working on with the town of Cary, the Caring Place, and DHIC that's included as one of the projects on the list. But even more than our own self-interest, we thank the council and the staff for consistent attention and investment in the people of Cary. So many wonderful projects wouldn't happen without the town of Cary's support and the support of this body, including our own. Staff's attention to opportunities from federal dollars and otherwise is indispensable and makes our town a better place. The leadership of this body on issues of housing in particular is a vital part of Cary's future, and we're grateful for your contributions and your dedication to making Cary a place where everyone can thrive. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and bring Ms. Wheelahan back up. We had a gentleman speak about the Greenwood Forest project. Where is that in the process?
A rezoning application has been filed, and the neighborhood meeting is being held next Wednesday, May 1st. So registration for that is available online for anyone who's interested.
So that is an opportunity to ask questions of staff and of the developer to get questions answered. And I would encourage the gentleman to do that. There's a perfect opportunity, and Ms. Wheelahan will be your contact for now, but there's probably a contact for that rezoning as well.
That's right. There'll be a rezoning case manager as well.
And that would be your person to contact all through that. As far as, and I'm diverting a little bit because he's here waiting, and I don't want him to feel ignored. Maynard is a traffic issue. I drive it every day. My understanding is we can't base rezonings on traffic. That would be inadequate public facilities ordinance, sort of.
You can consider traffic as part of your consideration, yes.
But Maynard is a state road, and I know you can't answer this. I don't know who can. What is the ultimate build out of Maynard Road? As it gets more and more traffic, what are we doing for the residents there? Are we planning a median and then having a U-turn? Not that that's ideal, but that would make it safer. I don't know who would be that. Would that be Dana that could answer that? Or
I can answer.
Okay.
There's no current plans for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. I hear you. There's still issues with traffic, and we're dealing with issues across the town in major thoroughfares about what to do with traffic. So anyway, as far as this project or these CDBG funds, I'm all in favor, and I really want to thank you for the work you've done, and these will really help Cary and everything that goes along with it, so thank you. And I'll pass that along to my colleagues.
Well, I'd love to first thank staff for all the hard work. I think this is the most money I've ever seen associated with affordable housing at one time. And also thank all of our not-for-profit partners. This is an amazing opportunity. We can't do it alone. And I think another thank you should go out to the residents. They've spoken loud and clear about how this is an important consideration, and this almost $7.3 million really demonstrates our commitment to affordable housing and aligning our values with action. We say at the council so many times that we don't do things to make people feel good. We do things because it's the right thing to do. But this affordable housing journey started a long time ago, but was really culminated in the unanimous adoption of our housing plan in 2021 by the council. And I think that intention really started us along the path to where Heather, you, and other members of the staff have really taken us. What I really like about this is the multifaceted and multi-pronged approach that we have. I mean, your chart with all of the not-for-profit partners that goes from innovative opportunities like the Raleigh Land Trust, Cramden creating digital equity access for everyone, protecting naturally occurring affordable housing with the restoration projects, to home ownership, right? You've really covered the gamut, and including the opportunity to end homelessness and provide skills to new homeowners. Even looking at it, there's nothing I could add to it. I just think that it's a great opportunity for other municipalities across the country to look at the work that you all have done, and I'm just so proud of what you all did.
Thank you, thank you.
Other comments? Or
I would say that the presentation is so well done that even a person like me who's new on the council could follow through. And, I'm so excited about what you have here and, what we are going to offer to the community. Thank you.
I just had one comment I wanted to share. This plan is perfect. That was the right word, I think. It's,
It's
as far
the
as,
Cary way.
yeah, as far as an action plan goes, I don't think I could, even in a fantasy, kind of come up with something realistic to add to it. But I think what I wanted to share is what I've learned now that I'm a sophomore on council in my 2 years, specifically from our housing staff and other people that I've asked for, can we do this? Or why don't we do this? And one of the things I've learned is that these funds, a lot of these funds, they're not just given out willy-nilly, right? And if you don't use them really well, you don't get more next year. And so I think that's the one thing that wasn't in your presentation is the accountability and the well thought through and responsible use of this money. And these partners, staff, everyone is really, really doing what they should be doing and making these dollars impactful and using them in a really responsible way. And so I just wanted to give that one shout out because it was the only thing that wasn't in your presentation was, that number is gone up. And that's a big reflection of how well these dollars are spent and the impact they're making.
Thank you.
other comments, or are we ready for a motion?
I just can't thank staff enough for always having your eyes open for the opportunities, as echoing what others have said, and our community partners for helping put the pieces together in all the areas of need. And so happy to hear that that this nearly 7.3 million is the largest that we've done previously, and I'm super excited for this to be a stepping stone for us and to see a lot more in the future.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Other comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the staff-provided 2024-2025 Housing Annual Action Plan.
Second.
There's a motion and a second discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Wheeler.
Great job.
We now move to our third public hearing. It's 23 REZ05 South Hills District rezoning. Chief Development Officer Scott Berry will introduce the item. Assistant Planning Director Katie Dry will present the report, and council will not take action on this rezoning, but it will be referred to our Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation and return to us at a future date. Mr. Berry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm excited, kind of in a different reason than we were just talking about, but to be here tonight with Katie to bring forward the public hearing for South Hills rezoning. As part of our presentation tonight, I'll give a brief history and highlights of the project. Katie will do the heavy lifting, describing the rezoning request, and provide our initial analysis of the request compared to the Imagine Cary community plan. And tonight, given the importance of this project and the relationship to a potential new community center, besides the applicant's representatives, Jason Barron, who you're used to seeing come up here and talk about these types of cases, we've asked 2 additional members of the applicant's team to say a few words. Henry Ward, the developer, and David Green, the land use planner for the project. By all accounts, South Hills is a great location, next to a highway interchange with easy access from both Cary and Raleigh. It's adjacent right across the highway from Crossroads Shopping Center and in close proximity to Fenton. The layout of South Hills is like what you could find in many prototypical shopping centers. Shown here is the first fully enclosed shopping complex, which opened in Minnesota in 1956. And I find this interesting. At the same time this mall concept was first starting, a new federal tax law was enacted, which kind of spurred mall development across the United States. And so there were times in the 70s and the 80s where a new mall was opening on average every 3 days. So lots of malls were being built. Wow. South Hills was part of the national trend, constructed by David Martin. The area began construction in the 60s, with the mall opening in 1972. South Hills experienced additional expansion through the 80s. And today, the site will retain many of the same concepts of the original 70s design, with expansive parking lots throughout the site. The project you see tonight encompasses most of the original South Hills district, with 12 acres on the western part of Buck Jones and 32 on the east. A few years ago, the original owner of South Hills put the property up for sale. It was purchased by the applicant in 2021. A rezoning was submitted in 2023. We held a neighborhood meeting in June of 23. We all got to tour the site, this spring, which I thought was really neat. And then tonight we're here for the public hearing. Today, South Hills contains a few businesses that are still in operation, as well as large stretches of empty buildings. For instance, the Asian Market, Susan's favorite donut shop, and I think many others, and a private DMV office are still in operation. The developer and the Cary Chamber are in talks with current tenants to determine what their future plans are and how they might fit in the redevelopment of South Hills. But as mentioned, much of the site is underutilized. With 436,000 square feet of buildings, 1,800 parking spaces, 49% of that property is parking right now.
Wow.
And due to the age of when the rezoning request was when the rezoning was originally established, this is a general use zoning district. So usually we have conditional use zoning, right? So there's conditions about what can or can't be built here. This is general commercial. So while some of the uses like shopping center and retail could be built back here right now, there's a whole bunch of other uses that could also be built here currently. When the developers first came to talk to us, they contemplated a largely adaptive reuse project. However, like Fenton, just up the road, the vision for this site has evolved into an urban mixed-use district. Another great example where Cary was able to inspire the developer through early iterations of the community center to think boldly about what the future of South Hills could be. And in turn, the developer's vision has helped to improve the community center concept. And based on tonight, I think that'll continue. So overall, the project is supported by the Imagine Cary community plan by allowing for density in a destination center with interstate access and allowing for the redevelopment of a tired shopping mall. The project creates a resilient block structure, like what you'd find in downtowns across America, where you really only have to build the infrastructure once, and then as uses change, you can come back and rebuild the uses, but leaving the infrastructure in place. The developer has proposed a holistic vision through their district design standards, which will allow for creativity, innovation, and the creation of a unique sense of place. These standards could also be used when additional areas of South Hills seek redevelopment. Finally, the rezoning allows for civic use throughout the site, which Doug is very happy for. And it creates flexibility for our future community center. And this is a pretty complicated project. We're still working on a variety of items with the developer, including fine-tuning the district development standards, architecture, design, signage, working on some transportation details, like transportation demand management, which is pretty neat for this site, finalizing street cross-sections, and we're looking at how do we help the environment through redevelopment. But we're excited to be here for this next step in the process to gather public input. And like Fenton, we're also in the beginning stages of working on a development agreement for the project. So with that, I'll turn it over to Katie, who will discuss the details.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm looking forward to presenting to you tonight the South Hills rezoning public hearing. And with this site, the assemblage includes not only the South Hills Mall site, but the Christian School to the north, as well as properties to the west of Buck Jones Road. I do want to point out that the assemblage to the west of Buck Jones Road does not include some of the properties along the road frontage, so you can see the total property boundary shown here. Some of the key commitments with this rezoning request include redeveloping the existing shopping center and adjacent parcels into a mixed-use development. Building heights would be allowed to be up to 23 stories in height for areas adjacent to the highway. There will be active ground floor uses, structured parking, 60,000 square feet of community gathering area, which is about 1.4 acres. And this project also includes a transportation strategy, which includes building a new street grid, transportation demand management, bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, and active uses along a pedestrian way. Uses modeled with the traffic study include 550,000 square feet of commercial uses, 235,000 square feet for research and development, 935,000 square feet for office, public and institutional uses, hotel rooms of 350, 1,775 multifamily dwellings, and 328,000 square feet modeled for civic use or for the center. Proposed uses that would be allowed within this site would be a mix of uses. So as Scott shared with you previously, currently it's zoned general commercial, which allows a wide variety of commercial uses. This would be reducing the types of uses, but adding in a mix. So there would be a variety of residential uses, some of which include life care community, multifamily, some office uses, which could be general office or wellness center, daycares, just some examples. Some of the commercial uses could include bank, postal service, personal service, restaurants, retail, hotel uses, things like that. And then for industrial, leaving room for research laboratory, which typically you would see in some of the newer office type uses. The existing zoning, as I mentioned, is general commercial with no conditions. This rezoning would be to MXD. This rezoning type requires the applicant to submit a preliminary development plan and allows the applicant to set their own dimensional standards and request alternative standards from the LDO. This plan, shown here, would create a new street grid with up to 29 development blocks. There are no stipulations on the locations of uses within the South Hills district. Instead, the uses will be based on criteria including requirements for ground floor activation, land use phasing, and building heights. So as I noted, there's no geographic locations identified for particular uses, but the land use ratio that will be required indicates that there will need to be 20,000 square feet of non-residential area maintained for every 100 multifamily units. And for the ground floor activation, they have provided guidance for primary, secondary, and tertiary ground floor active uses. The ground floor active uses identified as primary would include uses such as restaurants and retails. It'll be located along the pedestrian way running north and south through the project. Secondary active uses would include uses such as lobbies and offices and are shown here in orange. Lastly, tertiary active uses, shown here, would allow uses such as service areas. The primary active uses will include a pedestrian way, which is shown in green on this image. It's also shown in this picture, which is included in the South Hills District Development Standards. It will allow for pedestrian and bicycle travel. The pedestrian way would only allow managed vehicular activities for activities such as pickup, drop-off, loading, things like that. Building heights will transition from the tallest buildings being adjacent to Highway 1 and Highway 40, with the lowest heights being adjacent to the neighborhoods along Nottingham Drive. The PDP proposes 3 height zones. Starting in Zone 1, which is the furthest to the west and adjacent to the neighborhoods, the minimum height would be 30 feet, which could yield buildings between 2 to 3 floors, and up to 75 feet, which could be between 5 to 6 floors. Building Zone 2 is framing Buck Jones Road, and that height can range between 45 feet, which is 3 floors, all the way up to 180 feet, which would be between 12 to 15 floors. The tallest zone would be adjacent to the highway, where buildings could range between 45 feet or 3 floors up to 285 feet, which would yield 19 to 23 floors roughly. One of the most distinguishing features of this development is the proposal for a new street grid network. The network includes custom cross-sections, which include pedestrian and bicycle accommodations, on-street parking, the pedestrian way, and then coordination with transit accommodations working with Cary. The District Development Standards document has been submitted as a zoning condition, which will govern the site planning, street right-of-way, development planning, and building design. This document includes architecture, public art, signage, development plans, active uses, streetscapes, community gathering area, and early activation. The early activation refers to the ability to use some of the existing buildings and sites as is and do some additional improvements while construction is beginning on the rest of the site. The District Development Standards proposes alternative regulations for building designs, including alternative building materials, some of which are shown here, and other architectural standards. The standards also governing elements such as parking deck screening. All images shown here are from the District Development Standards. The standards also proposes the site to be developed with 2 sign zones. Sign Zone 1 will be visible from Highway 1 and Buck Jones Road. This area and signs within this area will mostly follow the regulations of Cary's current LDO. Sign Zone 2, which is more internal to the site, will allow for a wide variety and flexibility for signage for ground floor and lower floor signs. It will also allow for a limited number of movie screens, digital advertising, and neon sign, again for some of the lower floor tenants. A full list of the allowances are included within the District Development Standards. Due to the urban and mixed-use nature of this project, the project's proposing an urban hardscape, streetscape, and pedestrian amenities. Cary's general requirements are more geared towards permeable area with mostly set up for planting materials. The proposal is also proposing to remove 6 champion trees and to reduce the highway corridor buffer from the typical 50 to 100-foot requirement down to 30 feet. They are proposing to install a 15-foot buffer adjacent to residential uses to the west, where an area where a buffer would not be required currently for the LDO. This concludes my description of the preliminary development plan. Next, I'll share staff's preliminary analysis with the Imagine Cary Community Plan. So first, I'll note that the site is within a destination center, and the Cary Community Plan states that destination centers are Cary's premier mixed-use centers. Destination centers are intended to contain the greatest development of intensities found in Cary. They're intended to be regional destinations. The plan goes on to say the greatest emphasis should be on vertical mixing, ground floor retail and offices, and housing on upper floors for an urban character that creates active public spaces. When we complete an analysis looking at the LIVE chapter, we note that LIVE chapter policies support housing choices, options, and affordable housing. We find that this policy furthers policies 2 through 5 by increasing multifamily residential within a mixed-use context and the provision for context-sensitive development. The proposal seeks to address policy 6 with the provision of workforce housing. The commitment is currently for 5% of the multifamily units to be available for renters with incomes of 80% of the area medium income for a period of 10 years. When looking at the work and shop chapters of the Imagine Cary plan, we note that these policies guide future growth by supporting economic development, efficient infrastructure use, maintaining quality of development. The site will serve as a gateway to Cary and will further the prominence of the destination center. The site furthers policy 10 through the provision for a compact mixed-use development. When looking at the PRCR master plan within the Engage chapter, we note that a proposed street side trail is along Buck Jones Road with a connection to the future Walnut Creek Greenway, which is to the northeast of the site. A greenway connection is also proposed to extend across US 1 as a connection to the Crossroads Shopping Center. Lastly, looking at the Serve chapter, we note that these policies aim to protect the environment, but also anticipate growth changes in Cary. The key way this proposal supports air quality is through the provision for a walkable environment. They've added a commitment to include EV charging with 5 EV charging stations per deck and pre-wiring for 10. They're proposing to remove 6 champion trees, but there will be new trees planted on the site within the street grid. There was a neighborhood meeting held in June of 2023 with approximately 15 attendees from the area. Questions and concerns that were expressed regarding stormwater, drainage, and flooding, affordable housing availability in the area. And since the public hearing has been advertised, staff has received 1 email from the public regarding this request. Notification was mailed to property owners within 800 feet, and this exceeds the town of Cary's requirements as well as the state requirements for public hearing notice. This concludes my presentation. As Scott mentioned, the applicant's representatives are here to speak with you, and following that, we will be available for your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Troy.
Flawless execution on the walk-up, as always. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jason Barrett with Morningstar Law Group. Thrilled to be here tonight. Joining with me tonight, and you'll hear from momentarily, are Henry Ward of Loden Properties, who he and his partners are the developers of South Hills, and also David Green, whose world-renowned understanding of urban placemaking really serves as the foundation of the vision for what we're trying to achieve at South Hills and what Henry and his partners are trying to achieve. So I'm going to hand it off to them momentarily. This is probably the least you'll ever hear from me on a zoning hearing, because those are truly the experts. But I do want to tell you that tonight represents literally 2 years of close coordination and intense planning associated with bringing forward something that's bold and something that's visionary and something that fits with what Cary always does for their projects. And it hasn't just been the community center. I will tell you, Henry and his partners have wanted all along to do something unique, to make a statement with what they're doing here. What the town is doing with the community center and their plans for redevelopment of the site have definitely been a source of inspiration for them. I mean, look around at the amazing projects that the town of Cary delivers, whether it's the downtown park. I mean, you name it, what Cary does, when you all put your finger on something, you deliver excellence. And that's exactly what Henry and his partners intend to do here. And tonight is the next step in the process of making the redevelopment of one of Cary's most precious redevelopment assets a reality, and that is South Hills. And I can tell you, you could not be in better hands. I've been very impressed to work with Henry and David and the rest of the team. Now, before I hand it off to Henry, I do want to tell you, and I've told some of you this before, every zoning case that I've worked on in the course of my 20-plus years of being a zoning attorney, 15 of which have been here in the town of Cary, this invasive gray hair that I have on my head is thanks to most of you all. But I will tell you that what has been extraordinarily unique about this isn't just the vision. Every single zoning case I have ever worked on, a developer has called me and said, I have a use, and I need to figure out how I can put this use on a particular piece of property, whether it's been a hotel, whether it's been an apartment deal, whether it's been a grocery store anchor. It has always been about use. At no point during this process has it been about use. It has exclusively been about creating unique experiences for people who are going to be at South Hills. It has been about creating something that people on the ground level will experience, and it has been inspirational, candidly, to be a part of. It really has, because at no point in this process, and we've been at this for 2 years working with the staff, at no point during this process have the staff made a comment and Henry said, whoa, hang on a second, that messes up our apartment deal. At no point during this process, because everything has been intent on making something unique and something urban and something special to the town of Cary. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Henry and the rest of the team, and I will let them show you the magic behind this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Henry Ward with the South Hills Development Team, and we are thrilled to be here tonight to present you an exciting and dynamic district that will be entirely unique to the town of Cary. It's been both a long and a quick past 2 years engaged in this planning process, during which time we have drawn on inspiration from the placemaking that the town has led in places like the downtown Cary Park that we can't wait to continue in the evolution of South Hills. We were fortunate to be able to purchase this property in 2021. We now control 44 acres on both sides of Buck Jones Road at this A-plus location, really one of the most significant crossroads in the Southeast. Truly a generational development opportunity, and I think we can all likely agree on the fact that South Hills is definitely in need of some love and TLC. We live here. So we are a local-based development team. We have to get this right. We have no choice. We're going to live with it for the rest of our lives. And so throughout the process, in this project and others, we like to take periodic opportunities to ask ourselves, what's the secret in the sauce? What is going to make this project unique and of a quality that matches everything else that has happened in the town of Cary? And so 3 main pillars. One, you haven't met them all yet. You'll hear from David shortly. We have assembled an absolute world-class design team. I mean, truly, Jason, David, and plenty of others behind the scenes, they are absolute best in class. You'll see that in the rest of the presentation. Secondly, we are introducing a new paradigm for development of locations such as South Hills. And that is introducing an urban grid to what has historically been a sea of asphalt and a very suburban location. This is how cities were developed over the history of time. So what's old is new again, and we are excited about creating small, walkable, highly urban blocks with distributed parking. And thirdly, and Jason alluded to this, and I'm sure David's going to echo it again, the collaborative process that we have been involved with town staff over the last 2 years is really unmatched. And what I've realized through that process is our goal very early on, we saw that our goals were very much in line, and that is that just A-plus standard of quality that Cary demands and we plan to deliver. Just a couple other unique features. Katie mentioned the pedestrian connection that runs throughout the entire site. Will ultimately connect to the Greenway system. The project will be developed in phases. A significant first phase will be on the east side of Buck Jones, the site of the existing mall. We'll continue planning and hopefully begin some construction at some point in 2025. Before phase one gets underway, we have some really unique and creative ideas about activating the former Crossroads Ford dealership on the west side of Buck Jones Road. So some early activation that will get people excited about coming back to South Hills, new visitors and folks that haven't been there in quite a while to recognize that change is coming. So thank you for your time tonight. Without further ado, I will turn it over to David Green with Arup.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Jason's going to help me because Katie told me that this is really hard to work, so to keep me from embarrassing myself. I do want to say, and I can't overemphasize this or overstate this, working with the town planners in Cary over the last 2 years has been phenomenal. And this, I have worked all across the globe. I've worked with dozens of different cities in dozens of different countries, and I have not had an experience like this, and that is the absolute truth. 100% best experience of my life. And it's been a fairly long life. Even though I have less gray hair than he does, I'm a lot older than he is. So a lot of what I was going to say has already been said by Katie and Scott. It's great to see that we're all on the same page, and Jason and Henry. But I do want to go through this because this is a very simple plan. It's just simply projecting streets. We've got small blocks. There's a kind of mixed-use component that we've got, and as Jason very eloquently said, we're not setting up a preconceived notion about what the project's going to be. It's organized around this pedestrian way. And so it's just a very simple series of ingredients that are taking next slide, which is taking something which, as everybody knows now, is not the greatest sort of situation in the world and reinventing it. But I want you to understand that this was conceived in the 1960s and built in 1972. So it's 10 years younger than I am, and we're already talking about scraping the entire thing and starting over. That is not resilient, that's not sustainable, and it's not adaptable. And so a very short history lesson. We can start to think about something like Philadelphia, right? And so we're simply projecting a series of streets. And what's fascinating about this, and it's exactly the same way that downtown Cary was initially planned, and most of the great old downtowns across this country and other places, it's been in place for 350 years, right? And so we're thinking about putting something in place that's going to be there for a very, very long time. And what's amazing about this, next slide, is that it's been able to accommodate futures that William Penn never could have envisioned back in 1682, right? I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years. Nobody does. But what we're doing is setting up a framework that is creating an adaptable future for Cary that can manage the future in a way that we don't see in these sorts of projects that were built in the 50s. And so ultimately what happens is, next slide, is this unfolds. Now think about this. There's no way that Penn could have imagined that downtown Philadelphia was going to turn into this in our day and age. I'm not proposing that we're going to put downtown Philadelphia in South Hills. What I'm proposing is that there's a logic that we use to create places for 2,500 years, and we should continue that because we know that it works. We can measure it, we can understand it, and we have evidence that this is the way that we create these great places. And so this is the plan, and it's kind of crazy, but it's a simple street plan, right? It's the way that we've seen all of these great cities unfold, from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia to New York, and that's simply what we're proposing. Next slide. And it's all organized around this vision we have for a highly walkable, connected community, and in this system, we can do that in a very simple way. Key elements are the small walkable blocks and the pedestrian way. It's that simple. Next slide. But we didn't just make these things up. We've also spent a lot of time evaluating what we want to see, and so we've got the best examples of pedestrian ways across the world, and we're using those to drive the design and implementation of what we're proposing. And then also primarily thinking about streets for people. And these are streets that, yes, we can drive on them, and yes, we actually increase network capacity in this area, which will have a beneficial impact on traffic and congestion, but at the same time, they work for people on scooters, people walking, people in wheelchairs, people of all different abilities. We've evaluated great places because we want people to say, South Hills, this is an amazing place. I have great memories in this place. I've seen great events. You know, when the center gets put in place, there are going to be things that happen that'll be memorable for the children that are here, for the elderly that are here, who, by the way, in a system like this can be born and live their entire lives in a place like this. So there's aging in place available as well. And so ultimately, very simple plan. It de-risks your future in a very clear way, and it's based on 2,500 years of really, really good planning of cities. Thank you.
So now's the time for the public hearing for the 23 REZ05 South Hills District rezoning, and I'm calling on the clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We had one written comment and no registered speakers. Sarah Sherman shares concerns regarding safety on Nottingham Drive, particularly with increased non-residential traffic expected due to the South Hills Mall redevelopment. She requests that town evaluate options to enhance safety for residents, including constructing sidewalks, installing traffic calming measures, despite concerns related to the fire station, and potentially restricting vehicle traffic on Nottingham Drive while maintaining pedestrian access. Ms. Sherman emphasizes the importance of ensuring the safety of residents, especially children, amidst the potential development impacts.
Thank you.
No registered speakers.
No registered speakers. If you are here in the audience and would like to speak at this public hearing, now's your opportunity. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions or comments.
I'll go ahead and start, and then we'll just pass it around. I'm extremely excited about this project. I think it's so wonderful for our area, and I love the collaborative process that has gone on. So, and I love everything that I've heard. I thought it was really intriguing that earlier tonight we saw, as we closed down that alley, an early rendering of 18 units that were kind of built in this kind of grid pattern that never came to fruition. So I'm excited that this is potentially going to come to fruition. I think it's very good. I look at these kind of projects and I try to kind of like figure out if there's anything that I'm going to regret later. And I will say that this is probably the only time I've looked at a reduction in a streetscape buffer and I thought, yeah, that works. That's okay. So there's nothing on this that I've seen that has given me pause or concern. But I am open if other people have concerns. I think it's really nice that Sarah Sherman raised the point about the safety of Nottingham Drive. We're going to have a lot of infrastructure requirements in conjunction with this. This doesn't happen in isolation, so the town does have responsibilities to the surrounding community to help with things like making sure that our citizens are safe on roads like Nottingham Drive. So I'm glad that's been brought up. But other than that, I think that this is going to be a great catalyst for this part of town and really wonderful.
Other comments?
I have a couple of questions first. As I was driving to Raleigh yesterday, I noticed alongside of, I never know where I'm going, 440 or 40, they seem the same. There were lots of buildings that were 20, 30 stories tall that had signage on the building. Would I think it was sign type 2, allow that sort of sign type? Because I know at one point Fenton had to come back to us for an update, so I just want to make sure that those types of opportunities are available to them. That would be something I'd love to see. Just if we can look forward by looking backwards, looking at what Fenton asked us before, maybe that's a sign zone 3 for extra tall buildings.
Yeah, certainly. So currently they're proposing that sign zone 1, which would be the buildings that are closest to the highway, as well as Buck Jones Road, those would primarily follow our current standards. So they're not asking for really much, if any, flexibility in our current standards for those. There would be a wide variety of flexibility within the sign zone 2, which is more of like the internal portion of the site.
Yeah, I think they should ask for that. If it's going to be this bold, exciting thing, you'd want to see it from the highway, right? I noticed as I was coming down 40, I saw this great big building, 23 or maybe 30 stories, and it had one word, Vine, down the side. And it was just really it was just really beautiful without being ostentatious. So just maybe some flexibility there might be nice. My other question, comment, concern, first off, I totally agree with you. I mean, I feel like I should say, you know, to boldly go where no one's gone before, but actually it's new and old at the same time. I kind of like that. It's quite visionary, and I'm really excited for seeing more details as time goes on. But you know what I'm going to say. I would love to see more commitment to affordable housing, if possible. I love that that you're coming to us with already a commitment of 5%, but Jason can't be sitting up there and thinking that I'd be happy with 5%. So I would love to see more of a commitment there, and I'd also love to see a commitment to something below 80% AMI. I just think of all the people who are going to be working in this amazing, amazing place. It'd be nice if they could afford to live and work in the same place.
I'd like to start with a question, as usual. I used an acronym that I've never heard before. Transportation Demand Management was one of the commitments, or TDM. That's a new one. What does that mean?
Yeah, so transportation demand management is a strategy that can be used to put in place a variety of ways to manage traffic that would go to a site. So it would be through a series of services and also programmatic infrastructure that would be put in place. So they would be looking at things like encouraging people to bike to work, and sometimes a strategy that could be employed would be putting in showers at an office so that you could bike to work, take a shower, go into the office. Sometimes TDM programs include a coordinator on site, so a person whose job it is to work with employers to maybe stagger start times at the office so that you're spreading out the traffic to the site. So that's something that they've committed to, and we're still working with them on identifying the strategies that would be employed.
Wonderful. I never would have thought about the shower. If we could get one of those here at Town Hall for me, that'd be great.
I have a follow-up question about that. Do you know if there are plans to integrate in bus stops into the site, or will the bus stops like kind of skirt it on Buck Jones?
Yeah, so the actual bus stop locations have not been identified yet, but we believe that would be a critical part to be able to make sure that the buses are going to where the people will be. So that's something that we will be working with them, and our Go Cary colleagues will be working with them on that.
And particularly with the community center. We want to make sure people can get there.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I just wanted to share one other observation. When I moved here in 1996, when I lived downtown Raleigh for about 6 months, and then I just had to move. And the only place I could afford while I worked at Cary Town Center Mall, I know I'm dating myself right now quite a bit now, but I worked at Cary Town Center Mall and I lived off of Buck Jones Road. And so this is an area, you know, we don't have a whole lot of areas where we can really point and say there's our naturally occurring affordable housing. And this is an area where, you know, there's, I think what's left is really kind of concentrated in the area. So I want to, you know, I hate it when people do this and they give you the good and then they make a sandwich with the bad. But I want to say that when I met with and got the tour and I heard about this project is A+. It really is. I think somebody said that when they were talking about this, that it's an A+ project for an A+ budget. It's a phenomenal project. Everything I heard, I thought just it got better and better, and I think y'all tried to leave me, and I wouldn't leave because I was standing in the parking lot asking questions. Scott took off. He's like, I'm out. She's your problem now, right? That's what Scott did. But so I appreciate the applicant spending so much time and such, but I just want to make sure that we're really remembering all of this that we're doing at South Hills, that there is a very easy tipping point between much needed and wonderful revitalization and gentrification. And so we need to remember that. And so if the applicant could be really think about what their commitment for some of that, to decrease the amount of displacement from the folks that are living there now who are on modest incomes and maybe come back with something a little bit more robust. I would be delighted to see that, and it would make this A+ project. I don't know what's better than A++. You'd get extra credit for me for sure. So and I'd put a sticker on your paper. I'd be really, really happy to be able to, when I share this project with people, be able to tell them about this thing. And if they share their concerns, which I expect they will, particularly with me, when they share their concerns with, well, what about the people that live there now? I can say, guess what? You know, they're thinking about them too. So that's what I'd be really appreciative to see on this A+ project, to make it an A++.
Yeah, one of those might be extending the commitment for affordable housing from 10 years to 30 years, like some of our other affordable housing opportunities. But I do have one last request. Can we go back to using the term one-earth instead of pedestrian way? It just teaches somebody a new word. One-earth.
I told him not to use that.
I hate that. I hate that.
That's where it came from, a one-earth. Anyway, it's just an opportunity. Maybe just the ones you give to me. Say one-earth.
Other comments?
Well, my district, I'm excited about it all. I think, bringing world-renowned folks involved that have learned a lot over the years in other communities internationally, I think it's going to be great, for this area. Chris, when I first moved here, or when I first came down here on assignment, this is where I stayed. Same reason, because that's what I could afford, and I got to know a lot of people in that area, and many have passed on, but it's an area that is ripe, and I do think what impressed me the most tonight was the ability or the commitment to keep listening. I think that's important. We know you have the talent, we have the ideas, we always have an insatiable amount of ideas, and I think it's trust the process but verify. I think you've heard our concerns over here about making it transportation friendly, making it affordable, and at the same time making it very attractive and a shining star for Cary. So I'm excited to work with you. I'm excited that this is moving forward. And Lori, I was thinking, you were saying that, what is it, Boldly Go Before? That was a TV series. Yeah. And I finally remembered what it was. It was Wagon Train with Ward Bond in the 50s. That's when they took all the people from Philadelphia and moved them west. And they settled here in North Carolina. Anyhow, I think you've heard the questions, you've heard the concerns. What you've demonstrated to date is that you listen well, you respond well, and you have the arrows in the quiver to know how to address and deal with that and still make this the first-class project that we all hope it'll be. So look forward to this moving forward and working with you as this goes forward. So thank you very much.
Other comments?
I would just make a quick comment. First of all, I agree with all of you. I think, whatever points I had in mind, they kind of covered it. But one thing I really, what concerned me was, and if the applicant could really consider that instead of 10 years of affordable housing, if they could consider 30 years. 10 years will go by very, very quickly, and having 30 years, having some buffer would be very nice.
Other comments?
I'd like to know, does the applicant build community centers?
We can ask.
One thing that's really interesting as we sit here is I remember when we went to see Avalon, right, and Alpharetta, and we were shown a vision on, actually not just on paper, but we walked through it. This is the first time, I think, that we're shown a vision for what can be without actually standing in it, and we're all okay with it, right? And I think that's a unique thing, to trust the process, to know that staff gets us, and obviously is translating that. That's the first time I think we've done it that way, where this is a big piece of property. right? Everything else has been very specific. You're gonna have this here, and this here, and this pod here, and this is what's gonna go here. Here's where the hotel's gonna go. Here's where this is gonna go. This is a little bit more fluid, and so far, so good.
Well, I agree with you. I think it's an interesting point, and I think it's because we have shared principles. And I think we're all on the same page around that, and that makes the difference.
My,
Comments?
yeah, sorry. My focus is always going to be on making sure that Cary is for everyone. I love the urban feel. I love the focus on walkability and the access to transportation. I love, the idea has already been introduced for workforce housing. Just because I think it's important not only to note things that are important to us, but to get a feel for how important it is to so many of us. I am going to say the same thing again, that I would love to see more, more units, some differing percentages of AMIs considered, and really, when we're thinking about housing stability, thinking about, is 10 years really a good goal for what, when we think about the standards in Cary of excellence and some of the things you've, mentioning here, just, is that going to be sufficient? And is that really the standard that we want to have in Cary? So, but having grown up near here, South Hills was always a really important. I'm super excited about the future and the project.
I think this is a good project. It is very, very hard to find something that's missing here, so I'm excited too.
Very good. Great feedback. Thanks, everyone. This next step in this process will be that it goes to our advisory board, the Planning and Zoning Board, and they're going to review it and see how it matches with our Cary Community Plan. And it will come back to us at a later date, which is the time we will decide whether or not to approve, or we will consider this final action. So thanks to everyone involved.
Thank you.
We have no discussion items this evening, so we'll move into closed session at this time, and I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Okay, pursuant to GS 143-318-11A1 and 3, I move that we hold a closed session to consult with attorneys employed by and/or retained by the town in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorneys and the town, and to prevent the disclosure of information that is made privileged or confidential pursuant to the laws of the state, not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and we will now move into closed session. Our meeting has no further business. We are adjourned.